Hi, I'm Justin Hillgrove with Imps and Monsters. In a previous video, we worked on our underpainting for this piece, and now we're going to continue and start working on the background. Alright, so I'm ready to start working on my background. We already did the underpainting in a previous video, so I've already got a basis to start with, and I already know what colors I'm going to be using. I like to start with the background. The foreground is so much about detail, and the background is more about getting a nice, even, smooth, background. So it's easier to do that first because I don't have to be careful about my screwing up what my foreground looks like. So to start with, I'm just kind of picking a blue because we picked blue for the sky, but I'm going to pick like a base blue to start with and get that all filled in. Alright, so I've got some basic blue down there, and I'm going to do a little wet on wet blending first. I want the sky at the bottom to be a little lighter than the sky at the top. So I've added a little bit of white at first. And I'm just going to work that into the paint that's already there. And we're going to let it blend gradually from the bottom to the top. I'm not worried about it being super smooth. I like showing a little bit of the texture. That way people can tell it's a painting, not a photograph of an actual stick boy. Grab a little bit more white and a little bit of Naples yellow just to give it a little color. And as I mentioned before, it's the contrast that really makes it pop. Really makes it for an interesting piece. So you can see I have a nice blend from light to dark. We'll go ahead and let that dry for a minute. Alright, I've let it dry for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and try to add some interesting shapes here into the background, just so it's not just this empty space. I'm using some cool colors here to have it pushed to the back. I'm not worried about trying to make it look like real mountains or a specific mountain range or anything. Just kind of throwing some color back there and going to let it dry. And while it's drying, I'll just add a little color to the water here, because we want to use those same colors that are in the sky, and we'll add reflections of the foreground characters when we work on the foreground later in a different video. I don't know if you can tell, but I've added a little more yellow, a little more color into the sky here now. And I'm just kind of working, the blue below it is wet. I mean, is dry. But I'm just kind of almost dry brushing the new color into it and just blending it up till we get to the top here. My brush is almost dry at this point. And I think I'm actually going to work a little bit from the top, add some darker blue to the top and work that down a little bit. Again, just for some nice contrast. I'm going to grab some of my acrylic glazing liquid, if I can get it out. And I've got a little bit of paint left on my brush, so I'm just going to grab a bunch of that. And that just helps make it a little smoother and a little more transparent as I'm working my way down. All right, that blend's looking pretty good. I'm gonna let it dry. You can see why I'd want to do the background first, just because with the background I'm a little bit more in a hurry because I want the blend to be more uniform. Whereas the foreground, I'm going to be able to take my time. I'm going to want to not screw up the background I've spent the time working on. Let's add a little bit more color to the water below too. We're just grabbing some of those same colors that are in the sky. And as I mentioned, we'll do the reflections. That'll probably be one of the later things that we'll end up doing to this. All right, I want to remember my light source and have it affect this little background grouping of shapes. So I'm just adding a little color here so that I can blend a little more wet into wet. I'm getting a lighter version. And because my light source is over here, I'm going to hit the left side of these mountains, or whatever they are, with this lighter color. And now I'll come in and do some darks on those same shapes. All right, so I've let it dry for a little bit. What I'm going to do now is I've got the darks up here. It's a little lighter down here. I've got my little mini mountain range here at the bottom. I'm going to kind of unite all of that together by doing a little bit of a wash over the top, and or a glaze rather. I'm going to use my golden acrylic glazing liquid and just get myself a nice light color, because I do want to kind of lighten everything up at the same time. A little bit of light blue, a little bit of the yellow I've been using. I want to make sure I have plenty to do this with. And I'm just going to go over the top of the whole thing. Including the mountains that are back there too. You have to make sure when you do this that the paint that you're painting over the top of right now is very dry, because otherwise it'll start to lift that up. And again, you can see why it's a lot easier to be doing the background first, at least for me. So while it's still wet, I'm going to go ahead and just break up the sky a little bit with some cloud patterns. Just grabbing a little bit of white with a little bit of that light blue. While this background's still wet, it'll stay wet a little while because it's got so much of that acrylic glazing liquid mixed in with it. And I'm just going to pick a spot here and do a little bit of a cloud pattern. I usually take it from the top. I start at the top, and then I just kind of blend it down into the sky color. And I'll do the same over here, just kind of pick a spot. Throw some lights there. And blend it in. And again up here. Just trying to break up that sky and keep it interesting. All right, so I'm going to dry brush a little more highlights onto these clouds. I've made sure and really let that layer of glaze dry. If you try to work on top of wet glaze, it'll just lift up the paint and make a huge mess, ruin what you've done. And I want to add some more lights here at the bottom, just for even a little bit more contrast. Grabbed a little more of my acrylic glazing liquid, and you can see I'm kind of tinting a little bit of the sky yellow, again with the Naples yellow that I like. And we'll go ahead and work a little bit on the water here. Just going to add some lights to the water. Take some of the colors from the mountains here. Oops. Yeah. It's not really doing what I want, but we'll make it work. And for the most part, I'm just ignoring my foreground character and painting as though he's not even in the piece for now. And I'm going to add just a little bit of color. I just grabbed a little bit of red with a lot of the glazing liquid, if I can get it out. And I'm just going to put a little bit at the top, just because I like to add a little bit of color. Let's see, and I'll throw some onto these mountains too, in the shady spots. And I'm going to use my toothbrush now and just add a little bit of a spattering of paint to the corners and all around. Kind of breaks up the flat background a little bit, and that way if I get little drops of paint on it too, it doesn't stand out so much. Makes it kind of interesting. I'm doing the same now with some lighter color. Whoa, that was too dark. I don't really like that. Let's try that again. Yeah, that's better. I'm not going to worry about it though. I'm not going to try to get that off of there. I will just leave it. All right, and that's about it for our basic background. We'll come in and add a few more details in future videos, probably after we do the foreground. And but for now, this is looking pretty good. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming videos. Also, if you want to help us out, you can click through the links below or go to Lasting Impression Art and click through the Amazon.com link. We get a small commission for purchases made through those links, and we appreciate you helping us out. It's at no extra cost to you. If you want to learn more about me and my art, go ahead and click the link below to impsandmonsters.com. Thanks again for watching the video.